Make art that sells. How does that term make you feel? For some people, when we say make art that sells, it kind of makes you feel that you're selling your soul, that you're kind of having to make art for other people so you lose your own voice. And for some, it's exciting. The thought of making art that's going to sell has the opposite effect. And I wanted to talk about this in today's episode as we explore this term and ways that you can make art that sells. I was thinking about this because at the time of recording this, Nicholas Wilton is hosting a workshop next week, which is all about how to bring your art to life. And his workshop teaches you how to make art more like yourself. And I think this is one of the biggest ways to make art that sells, and especially in today's world. And this is why I wanted to talk about this today, because it's not the only way, but I think, there's a couple of ways of making art that sells. But the best way, I think, is to make art more like you. And I've been asked before, what's the point in me trying to sell my art when I paint dogs, for example, and there's like a million dog portrait artists out there, or I paint flowers and there's a million people out there painting flowers. Like, what is the point? And the point is because you made it. And like in all professions, there are a million hairdressers and a million plumbers, and when it comes to making art, the more you lean into the way you create art, and start to identify what makes you different to other artists, because you could line up 100 pieces of artwork of the same dog, for example, and they'll all have subtle nuances that make them different. Even if you've tried to create them identically, they'll still have some differences. And what's really powerful is you noticing those differences in your own art that set you apart from other artists that are painting or creating in whatever media or medium to you. And it also gives you confidence in what you're making when you start to notice that. And I hear lots of people say, I don't have a style. But when you put your artworks together, I can see your voice emerging through all these different pieces. I can see the thread that ties the work together. Quite often when you're so close to your own artwork, you can't actually see the commonality between all your pieces. The subtle ways that you might use colour or hold your pencil and you have these little squiggly lines and that comes through. There's all these ways that make you so unique, and never underestimate those parts of yourself, because that's what you need to lean into. And not only the way you produce art, but the story behind every piece. And I've shared this before, that if you line up artworks and they all look the same, what sets those artworks apart is you and your story. And I've seen this time and time again where people create art, share their story, build a network of people, almost use social media like a blog, and really connect with their audience in terms of who they are as an artist. And you don't have, this is why I say you don't have to do that. But I've seen great success from people that do that. And again, it gives you that confidence. And I wanted to share this because I hear people saying, I don't want to keep sharing the same thing over and over. I don't want it to be about me. But this is what makes you interesting. And this is what makes you stand out from other artists, is your story. And quite often it doesn't have to be an elaborate story or an intelligent one or a clever story or one that's going to show you as being this incredible artist. It's just normal stuff that makes you different to other people. And so I do believe that to make art that sells, the more you can make it individual and like you, the more you can lean in on that. And that's how you're going to stand apart from everybody else, and AI and all the things that are going on. It's those factors that make you different because of who you are in terms of the artwork that you make. So the more you understand that, the more you will create unique artwork. And that's what Nicholas Wilton's workshop is all about, how to create art that's more like you. And from that, then leaning into those stories that make you individual and make you stand out against other people, but not even just against other people, just so that you can connect with your people. And you only need a few people. I always say you only need a few people to create an opportunity that could be life-changing. And so that's one way. And or the other way is when you're thinking about making art that sells, you can either tap into an audience or a market that you'd be interested in and understand what it is that those people want. So some examples of this are in the design world, for example, which is where I came from. I used to work in design. Every year, we would be looking forwards to the trends that would be coming the following year, so that we could start to design product on curtains and bedding. And we would work with designers and artists to start creating those designs that would go onto products the following year. And so we were often going out to big events in Paris and New York and getting trend advisors in and looking at studio concepts ahead of time to predict what the trends would be. And that was kind of a really fun job, actually. And so each season, you know, there will be trends, and knowing that there's particular times of year where there'll be color trends, pattern trends, and you can incorporate those into your art. If you fancy getting into interiors or design or surface pattern, that's 100% something to start doing, is thinking about how can I make art that sells? And you can use these both factors of making art more like you, because you'll stand out to people that want those designs, but incorporating what is going on already and what do people want at the moment, what's working as a trend. Some people don't like following trends because they fizzle out, they're gone, and then you've got to move on to the next thing. For some people, that's exciting. And all of this is about you figuring out what you want to do as an artist. If you don't want to follow the trends, you can still adopt this approach of understanding a group of people, a market, which is what a market is basically. So if you create installation, for example, so installation inside buildings, and you're creating an experience for somebody, as you learn more and more about installation work and you look at other artists that have created installations and you work with venues, over time you will start to learn what people enjoy from those experiences. So you might find that people enjoy sensory at the moment, and there's a need for people to create kind of installations with video and sound and tactile and things that people can drink and taste. And, you know, that might be something that you've learned that people want. And so you adapt your work to fit what people want. On a more simplistic level, it might be that you've created an audience because you create dog portraits, for example, and there might be a need in your market to have a particular type of frame. There could be a frame that's really popular right now, that's really popular, like these box frames or these floating frames, or, you know, and you start to understand in your market, which is just that group of people that you're serving, is that, oh, this seems to be popular amongst people at the moment. And so that is another way, and I call this the negotiable side of being an artist, where you can actually tweak things to make them more sellable. And so there you go. I'm just going to throw those two thoughts out there for you in terms of making art that sells, knowing that there's no right or wrong. And if you hear people say you're selling your soul because you're trying to make art that sells, it's rubbish. You can absolutely make art that sells. Or if you want to stay true to who you are and go down that road of making, and then you come to the surface and then figure out a place for it, which is harder to do, but it's possible. Really asking yourself, how maybe could I adapt this work to make it more sellable if that's what you want to do. Really thinking about presentation as well, I think, is key. You know, you can change an artwork really quickly and make it look completely different. And a friend of mine was saying this the other week, how she's bought quite a few different artworks, like 5 artworks, and she wants to put them all up on the wall together with different frames and create a kind of, you know, like a collage, well, not a collage, like a montage selection of artworks on the wall all together. And so she got Canva open. I don't know if you've heard of Canva, CANVA.com. I'll drop the link in the show notes. It's a free tool where you can play around with imagery, photos. And what she did was imported the artworks that she'd bought. And then she kind of uploaded some frame options that she screenshot from different shops, and she uploaded those into Canva, and then she placed the artwork on top of the photo frame so that she could see how these different artworks would look in different types of frames. I was like, that is so genius. I mean, I'm sure there's probably an app out there that does that for you, but for now, if anyone's got any ideas on an app, let me know and I'll let others know. For now, Canva is a great option. And I thought as well, how cool would that be for you to use something like that? And you don't have to get things perfect, but you could drop your artwork into different frames on Canva just to show people that this is how it looks in a bright pink frame and this is how it looks in a traditional gold frame. And just to show how your artwork, and you'll be surprised as well, how your artwork looks completely different when you present it in that different way. So I really love that tip of using Canva for that. And sharing that on your socials as well, or with your buyers even. So yeah, making art that sells. I'd love to know your thoughts on this topic. And if you have any tips on how you make your art sell, if you adapt it in any way, or you found that leaning into more about who you are, I'd love to hear from you. Please do get in touch with us, message us on social media, drop us an email, or comment underneath this video. And yeah, can't wait to hear from you. Have a wonderful week, and I'll see you very soon. Oh, and by the way, if you want to sign up for Nicholas Wilton's event, the link is below. If you're listening to this on a replay and it's after the event, that link might lead you somewhere else to a landing page that says it's not existent anymore, because it is only on for a short period of time. Okay, take care, my friends. I'll see you soon.